Origin just wants to reaction. This is why Ukraine's taking the turtle tanks. Wait a minute. Is that grammatically correct? Ukraine's. I mean, yeah, apostrophe s is like is and has, like shortening that, but I don't know. It feels. What does that feel weird? Like because Ukraine is like I don't know. Does that feel weird? I don't know. But yeah, why Ukraine's taking the turtle tank seriously by channel task and purpose? The turtle tank, I think it's the newer thing that Russia has been doing, right? Putting things on top of tank, making it look like basically like the right here in the video. I'm guessing that's to defend against drones and things, right? I mean, if it works, it's like yeah, it's something, right? Like we've seen throughout like major wars, like world wars and things like that. People like like eh, coming up on spot with some kind of modification or something, whatever fits type of way, right? People do that all the time. So if this works, it's great. But does it work? I guess that's what we're gonna just see in this video. Yeah, task and purpose is great. Basically, it tries to like cover things based on whatever evidence is available, which is very interesting. It's not one of those channels that just like try to pick a side and try to like amp up that way, right? He tried to say what it is and try to be neutral as he can. So yeah, it's gonna be really awesome. Let's watch it. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe so that way I know which type of videos to react to more. I like watching videos like this. It's like it keeps you up to date, right? Real life, low task and purpose. I like channel that keeps you up to date. So yeah, if you really like reactions like this, definitely like, comment or whatever. That that way this video can be helped with the algorithm and things. Yeah, let's watch it.
Am I hallucinating or did that barn just move? I think the appearance of Russia's strange-looking modified turtle tanks reveals a few different things. One of them is a capability gap in modern short-range air defense vehicles.
How is
By
engine
the field
taking it though?
manual, armored vehicles assaulting an objective are supposed to be protected from aerial threats by air defense vehicles, like the Russian 2K-22 Tunguska or the American Avenger system. But we've seen that recent assaults by both sides don't use these vehicles. It turns out they're more useful at shooting down aircraft than they are for shooting down fast-moving, low-flying FPV drones.
What air defense doing?
Turtle tanks appear to be a symptom of this wider problem within shorad. Many jokes have been made about how they're constructed from crudely welded together thin sheets of metal, that it looks like the Jawa sandcrawler from Star Wars, an assault shed, or my 2006 Toyota Camry. But the Ukrainian army is actually taking the threat seriously, so I thought it might be worth actually looking at. Ukraine just captured their first one, which has revealed some questions and answers about its countermeasures. Then the Russian Ministry of Defense also released a video about its construction process. So we've got a lot to look at in this episode. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys that
Why though? Why did first of all, why would Ukraine release videos like that, like giving information like that? And why would Russia Defense Ministry or whatever like release a video of like how it's working or whatever? Like, don't you think giving away information or something? I'm guessing because it's captured now, like Ukrainians is gonna know already like how things work, so they're just like releasing out there as a, I don't know, like morale booster or something. I don't know. But yeah, well, go to original video page link and from there support this channel.
To claim the prize. Good luck, Spare Parts Army. Russian forces first put these Mad Max Fury Road looking vehicles into service in the middle of April 2024. We initially observed them being used in assaults on the Ukrainian towns of Chasiv Yar and Krasnovrika. Then, in May, they started to appear in the north in the Kharkiv direction. First it was just one or two, now it's an entire platoon outfitted with these modifications. What have the results been in combat? Somewhat mixed so far. Footage from the front lines has shown that the vehicles survived several FPV drone strikes where it rips the sheet metal off and the tank keeps moving.
What?
It's also shown over a dozen abandoned and destroyed ones. Whoops, wrong photo. Reports from...
No way. Look, man, if it works, it works, right?
Whoops, wrong photo.
I can't. Yeah, I can't pause that because YouTube. But yeah, if it works, right? I mean, it did survive drone attacks, so which means it worked. So why are people making fun of it? Like because how it looks or something? Like that doesn't matter, right? If it's effective. So yeah, if it worked, it worked. I don't know.
Whoops, wrong photo. Reports from Ukrainian Telegram channels revealed that they had to expend multiple drones on one tank. They also stated that electronic countermeasures attached to the turtle tanks in the lead of the formations was dropping some of their FPV drones like flies.
Meanwhile, in the turtle tank,
just because they look like junkyard battlebots, though, doesn't mean they don't have utility. It's like the old expression goes, don't judge a book by its metal paneling. The military analyst Rob Lee said on X, "I know people are laughing at this, but I don't think it's a crazy adaptation. The Russians are adapting to the particular conditions on the battlefield, in which Ukraine has a lot of FPV drones, but not enough anti-tank guided missiles, anti-tank mines, and artillery. But Ukraine has developed tactics to counter them. The way they captured this one in specific was by aiming for its tracks with smaller grenades. This burned off the rubber element from the tank's rollers, which caused the track to tangle and it immobilized it. With a broken track and low visibility..."
Again, why the hell Ukrainians are giving information away like that? See, we attacked the wheels, and that's how we took. Why are you telling them? Now Russians know them, like they're gonna like put in reinforcement there or something. Like, even in warfare, social media is interfering. Like people's like I need to make a video about this. Why?
The turtle tank crew got separated from their unit and lost, and this led to their eventual capture. The tit for tat continues though, because we've seen the Russian engineers have extended that sheet metal all the way down to try to protect the tank's treads. This will have a mobility penalty though, because that metal will get stuck in the mud or drag along the ground. It appears like one of the purposes of the turtle tank's adaptation is to increase the cost and time required to destroy it. My first thought is, how do you see or shoot any targets accurately from under that hood? The answer is, many of them do not. The visibility and accuracy is greatly reduced by that metal shell and cage. Limited visibility is pretty much the same problem that the modified Killdozer had. And that's what this reminds me of, like a Killdozer had a baby with a T-72. The captured one revealed that its T-62 115mm cannon was completely disabled. Its turret couldn't rotate, it was locked into position with the gun forward.
What?
There was no ammunition found stored in the tank. Footage has shown some of them can fire their cannons, but their weapon is limited to about 30 degrees of movement directly in the front. The entire vehicle has to turn to aim.
Why?
This is a weak spot that we've seen Ukrainian FPV drones exploit by targeting the front near the cannon. This is why we've seen Russia start to hang chains there. It's not for the Warhammer 40K aesthetic. It's to knock the drone's wings down. And to that point, military analyst Rob Lee said this: "So sacrificing the ability to rotate the turret on one tank per..."
I mean, you're sacrificing what a tank is, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if you can rotate it, like aiming will become impossible. Like, what, you're gonna spin the whole tank? Right? It's like you're walking around with a gun and you can't move your head. Like, where they are like, trying to move, that's, I don't know, man. But then again, like, what is the answer? Like, yeah, drones is gonna destroy everything, so you have to do this type of way. I don't know. But really, you can't come up with some kind of like a high-tech solution to something like this. Come on.
Tune that can jam many FPV drone frequencies at once makes sense. So if some of them are not meant as a firing platform, what's its actual purpose then? According to the video released by the Russian Ministry of Defense themselves, these vehicles are mainly salvaged from old stockpiles of T-72s and T-62 tanks that are often inoperable with their cannons. They're modified so that they still have some kind of utility as an armored personnel transport. The host of the Ukrainian military's video of the captured turtle tank says the appearance of turtle tanks reveals that Russia has to resort to refurbishing old ancient tanks from the 1960s. The claim is that there aren't enough new armored vehicles, so they're forced to create poorly armored makeshift ones.
And also, hands off the turtle tank. Have some decency, you guys.
Which brings us to that metal shack,
the hell is
shed,
all that?
whatever you want to call it on top. The whole modification serves two purposes, I think. First, you have the option to fit a squad of 10 Russian soldiers up there, and the walls prevent them from falling off when the vehicle is in motion. To that point, military expert Rob Lee said, "The priority is to get infantry assault groups across open fields to buildings or defensive positions." So the name turtle tank isn't as accurate as barn taxi in that case. The second purpose is what's called standoff distance, or about
basically it's like an infantry vehicle at that point, right?
6 feet of distance from the roof to the tank itself. That's why there's all those hamster cage looking things along the side on the outside. That's all spaced armor. In theory, to allow for multiple FPV drone hits. We've seen versions that have fences welded onto it or corrugated roofing sheets. Even though they're thin, because of the way munitions function on the drones, they need to make direct contact with the side of the tank to damage and
Basically like anti-tank ammo that even tanks uses, right? That's why every tank armor is like that weird chain mill type of looking thing. So basically it can detonate early before like touching the actual plate of the tank, because basically how this ammo is shown here, this is anti-tank ammo, basically modern anti-tank ammo, right? First it like touches the tank, and then like this dart type thing shoots out, right? So that's what basically is.
penetrate it. This way, the FPV drone detonates on the outer shell, which it makes contact with first, which protects the tank. It doesn't matter how thick or thin that scrap metal is when it comes to protecting the crew inside the tank, as long as it explodes a few feet away from the body. This means, though, that the soldiers inside the shed...
Yeah, basically this is like a hollow point ammo type of way, right? Hollow point, as far as I'm like, it's devastating to body, right? But if it hits the armor, it's not going to do much damage because it can't pierce it. So this is to made like pierce an actual like a metal plate. But if it like hits something like a mass grating type thing, right? Chain mill type thing, like chains or whatever, it's gonna explode there. So it's not gonna do much damage to the actual wall of the tank.
will be vulnerable to strikes from bullets, artillery, or FPV hits. The metal shack is made up of internal bars that are welded to it. The support bars go all the way around to hold up the sheet panels. Depending on the quality of the metal used, this could add between 5 to 10,000 pounds of weight. And typically
That's
that
what I'm
3 to
saying.
6 tons of scrap metal would slow it down from its max speed of 25 miles per hour off-road. But the Ukrainian walkthrough of the capture...
It's not just about that, man. Just slowing down is not the point. Won't that like overload the engine? It's not like if you make it heavy so it has like a half a speed. That's not really like accurate, right? It's gonna stress the engine now because of the heavy load. Yes, of course it's slower, but like engine is getting stressed, and especially like something like a standstill and then like moving. That will be even more strenuous to engine. Like how are engine failure is not a thing? I'm guessing it probably is, but they're like, take the chance or something.
captured one revealed that they gutted all the tank ammunition, which saves like 1,600 pounds. It also didn't have any explosive reactive armor inside those tiles, which saves another 5,000 pounds. The weight is likely not the factor that's slowing them down to a turtle speed. An open source analysis of one of their movement speeds in actual combat showed an average speed of about 13.5 kilometers per hour
slow.
or 8 miles per hour, although we've seen ones that are faster. It's likely the limited visibility, though, that's slowing some of them down. Now, in order to judge the turtle tank's performance, we're going to use a bit of open source military analysis that I like to call winging it. So what we do is we look at a map of before they started using the turtle tanks in April, and then we look at a map after they start using it in June, and we see in Chase of Yar they have made some advances since they started using these vehicles.
It makes
the same
sense.
is true for the town of Krasnohovrika. In both places, they
I mean, look, man, like Ukraine, like I would say, like, guerrilla warfare type techniques, like using something like drones and like things like that to like damage big ass tanks and things. They were always at advantage like that, right? Because they are the one defending and Russia is the one who's invading. So they can just like skirmishes type of attack and something like that. But now because of turtle tank, where they can like eat up certain, like drones before taking damage, that's a problem. So now they can actually, like, tank can be a tank now. People say, like, tank is useless because of drone now. Well, they, like, just, like, create this slab, like, Fallout 4 level of, like, shack or something on top of it. There you go. And now, like, they're eating up few drones. So, like, tank is a tank now. It works as a tank. So, of course, they're going to make progress.
They moved a few kilometers. And there's some evidence to suggest the turtle tank assaults in the Kharkiv direction haven't been as effective so far. Fair warning, that method is not scientific, so we have no idea of knowing if that would have still happened with or without the turtle tanks.
The other thing that I would say is that you should be cleaning your turtle's tanks at least once a week, and I know that sounds like a lot of work.
Modifying
What
vehicles
is
is an
that?
old pastime for lower enlisted.
Those footages look old, so I'm guessing it's not about this turtle tank. So there was another turtle tank before or something. I don't know. What is that?
When I deployed to Iraq, our US Army strikers were extremely ghetto-rigged with modifications. Our strikers looked like actual rhinoceroses because of the electronic warfare extender that was jerry-rigged to the front. It stuck out like a freedom boner. It was legitimately called the Rhino device, and this photograph of my actual striker stuck in the mud in Iraq somehow ended up on Reddit, where people are asking what that device in the front actually does. So the way it works is some IEDs in the past used passive infrared sensors to react to heat signatures. So they would explode when they recognized the heat signature from an armored vehicle was right on top of it. To counter this, troops improvised. They went to the market and they bought toasters and hair dryers from the market and attached it to the front of the vehicle while it was on so that it would set off the IEDs early. This Rhino...
I mean, come on, man. It's like, how does that work? You can't keep toaster on 24, like, for hours and hours, right? It's gonna fry up or something. Same thing with microwave things. You can only use when you can use them. So how did they make it work? They just kept it on permanently? Wouldn't it better like buy heaters like there are handheld heaters you can find that is like basic things. It's like, heating up the rod, so you can like heat up something like water in a bucket or something, right? I'm pretty sure they must have had their, Iraq or Afghanistan, whatever, right? So that would have been better to do, I guess. Like, it's literally a heater, like, it heats up the rod rather than like toaster and things.
Passive infrared defeat system was the US Army's mass-produced version of that. You can see from this photo, we also had cage armor all around the top and a sniper net that limited our remote weapon system 50 cal field of fire almost in half. But it protected...
Look at it, just like very cozy little thing, right? Look at that. It's just here. Somebody's a sniper, like, there's like, the thing on top to camouflage is like windows. Somebody just sitting there drinking coffee and just like sniping things. There you go.
Our remote weapon system 50 cal field of fire almost in half. But it protected us from sniper fire. There are trade-offs to any modification, but usually modifications are done to make a vehicle serve its original purpose better.
Yeah.
In the case of the turtle tank, it's unusual in that it's a complete change to its identity.
A tank.
I'm not saying the turtle tank is an engineering marvel, right?
It works.
I'm saying we ignore and we laugh at what the adversary is doing at our own peril. That's why I think actual Ukrainian soldiers are taking this threat.
That is so true, right? You can just laugh it off and like belittle something which is actually a threat that will hurt you more than like anything. Yeah. So that's how it works, right? Oh, look at that. They're just idiots. Like, I'm pretty sure there are many channels just say, like, oh, look at that. They're just like, they're idiots, and just laugh it off. While Russians like, yeah, keep laughing. That will make our job better or something. So it works, man. If it eats up drones, it's working.
Seriously. If you're interested in learning more about modified vehicles throughout history, I highly recommend checking out the legendary Perun's video on the topic. Personally, I think all of the trade-offs that we just talked about will become not worth it if someone's able to invent an air defense vehicle, shorad, that can travel alongside tanks and protect them reliably, shooting down FPV drones. Russia has an estimated 250 of the 2K-22 Tunguska air defense vehicles. These are outfitted with 8 surface-to-air missiles and twin 30mm cannons, meant to protect armored columns. During the initial invasion, these were deployed alongside some of the armored assaults. 14 of them were destroyed or captured. They've been absent for much of the assault since then. They were originally designed in the 1980s to counter threats like the American A-10 Warthog. Technically, they're also meant to shoot down drones, but this system lacks the precision to hit a target moving 100 meters away at 150 miles.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that when they talk about drones, they talk about those big drones, military drones, and actual drones with like hundreds of miles of like range, not Amazon style drones, the small thing. I'm pretty sure Russia and whoever developed that didn't thought like people actually going to use those, like commercial drones to like attack things. So I'm pretty sure those are too small and like not something they can accurately take down. But big drones, sure, but not that.
Miles per hour. According to Military Balance, Ukraine has 75 of the 2K-22 Tunguskas at the start of the war, and we haven't seen many of them deployed in offensive operations either. I mean, look at this old radar screen here. Does this look like it really has the fidelity to show you a small 1-meter sized drone clearly on that display? And the same is true for the old Avengers. New shorad vehicles to upgrade the old Avenger is the #1 priority in the US Army right now. I think the existence of turtle tanks is partly a symptom of the lack of mature shorad systems today. So we've seen the main tactic used with the turtle tank is
I mean, it's easy to say like it's a technology issue, but like technology cannot just rise up at that level. Like drones are really small, like those commercial drones. Like how are you supposed to accurately take that down? That is insane, right? Only thing you can have is like have an actual person in top of the tank constantly looking out for something and try to take it down. Because an automated system having that kind of accuracy is going to be insanely hard.
breaching and clearing a path. It's meant to be a modern-day battering ram of sorts. Russia typically sends in an armored column of 4 to 5 vehicles at a full speed towards Ukrainian positions. They're often put as the first vehicle in the column to absorb as much of the damage as possible. Shoddy not being assigned to that vehicle, it's become a drone magnet. But that's kind of the idea. It's meant to absorb drone hits during an assault. It's like the modern day version of a siege tower from the 1100s. There are scenarios suggested that turtle tanks are purposeful decoys, meant to attract fire away from the more valuable vehicles in the convoy. It's still early in their use, so it's difficult to say for certain what the final results are here. Military historian Matthew Moss called it a breacher vehicle. A breacher is a kind of engineering vehicle with a plow that has the purpose of leading vehicles through minefields. The idea is to get as close as possible to the opposing side's defensive line before dropping off infantry. To this point, many of them have demining plows and rollers attached to the front for clearing a path. Although, from combat footage we can tell that these mine rollers have had mixed results. However, the fact that we've seen the turtle tanks multiplying across the different parts of the front line indicate that they have some practical purpose at the moment.
Yeah, of
From
course it
Russia's
does.
perspective, they're facing an
It just makes sense, right? Like you've seen like those old style movies with the bows and like siege, and there are always people with the shield up because they know they're gonna be like attacked by bow and arrows, right? Constantly. This is equivalent of that. Instead of bow and arrow, you have drones now. And you have to protect tanks so that they're like fully like turtle up, right? I mean, it can eat a few drones at least. I mean, it's not gonna be like perfect, right? Like after like 2 or 3 drones, it's gonna take damage. But before it was just 1 drone, so this is better, right? And if you have enough of tanks like fitted like that, like now you need a lot of drones to take down tanks like that, and that becomes a problem.
environment where Ukraine is producing or acquiring 100,000 FPV drones each month, which are worth
the-
about $500 a pop. But one reason this adaptation could go away in the near future is if Ukrainian forces start using more anti-tank guided missiles that are supplied to them. This would change the threat environment for Russia and could change their calculations. To that point on electronic warfare, the captured version of the turtle tank
100,000 drones. I mean, turtle tanks might work, but not that much, right? Like they could like, okay, it takes 4 drones, so I'll use 4 drones. Like I don't know, I have a lot of it. Like I don't know, man.
tank revealed that they outfitted it with an electronic jammer to take out drone signals. Capturing this device is likely the most valuable part for the Ukrainian intelligence when it comes to the turtle tank to analyzing its capabilities. One of the limitations when using an active jammer is that it needs to get within close proximity to disrupt the drone's signal. They essentially work by broadcasting on the same frequency as the drone, but at a much higher power. Imagine shouting really loudly into
Overloading
a
the
bullhorn.
sensor,
You're
yeah.
basically drowning everyone else out in the room. Aside from that apparently being a socially unacceptable way to communicate, it works both ways, because it makes your location stick out and it's easier to detect. But hiding isn't the concern during a full frontal attack. The opposing force already knows where you are. So the real question is, how powerful are these Russian jammers on the turtle tanks? Low-powered ones have a max range of about 30 feet, think of one that like an infantryman might carry, while higher-powered ones can block over 1.5 miles. According to an article by David Hambling for Forbes, jammers can only jam 1 frequency at a time. The Russian breakwater Volnarez jammer is about the size of a dinner plate, and it can jam 1 single frequency out of 20 different ones from 200 meters away. So they tried jam-packing 20 jammers onto 1 tank to block all frequencies at once. From the information released on the captured one and video of them in operation, We know that the jammers are omnidirectional, meaning that they face in all different directions and capture 360 degrees, and are attached to the rooftops. Many of Ukraine's first-person drones are bought off the shelf commercially, which means that they come out of the box with the exact same frequency. If Russia jams that one frequency, they're all down. This is why Ukraine has so
See, that's the thing, right? Whenever something feels too good to be true, it usually is. You buy all these cheap drones. Oh, look at that. Isn't that easy? Just cheap drones taking on major tanks, like costlier tanks. Yeah, then now they have jammers. And of course, all these cheap drones are going to have same frequency. There you go. Jammer's going to jam them. Like, what you going to do now?
soldiers who can go into the software and code each drone's frequency to be different. But they still have alternative methods. There are special drones that are directly wired instead of radio controlled that can't be jammed. But the downside is it exposes the operator more because they need to get closer.
How's that going to work? Wired one?
According to the footage released by the Russian Ministry of Defense, they're calling the vehicle not a turtle tank, but a Tsar Mangal. From what I understand, Mangal is Russian slang for anti-drone armor, and Tsar was used in the naming convention of things like Tsar Bomb, which meant Emperor of Bombs. So I guess this is the Emperor of anti-drone armor. It's an interesting choice of name, though, because it sounds very regal for something that has humble junkyard origins.
This Tsar just means king of it, right? Like, I'm the king of the jungle, like, I don't know, king of the car or something, like, basically like that Tsar, the biggest or some shit like that.
Although maybe that's the point, I don't know. It sounds like the royalty of tanks, but its visuals don't exactly match.
Yeah, I don't think
so
royalty
if I
is
were
the
thinking
point.
of the turtle tank as an animal trying to evolve, I would think future versions would have anti-air weapons and radars on top that are capable of detecting and shooting down small FPV drones. The Tsar Mangal, Tsar tank, or turtle tank, whatever.
See, the thing is, I've seen T14 videos and how it works. So they can modify that a bit. It already has anti-defense things on it. So if they can mass produce that somehow and just like make a bit of tweak, that could be overpowered. But somehow they're not doing it. Like, I'm guessing they're facing a lot of issues. They already thought of T14. See, that's the thing. I don't understand this Ukraine invasion. They could have gathered resources, make a lot of T14 Armada tanks, make them a bit better in this like drone defense way. There already a lot of defenses inside them, right? That would have been overpowered, but it feels like, they just like jump the gun type of way, right? Before they have resources in like tanks like that, they just attacked.
You prefer to call it, appears to be a stopgap capability, something pressed into service to fill a need while something else can be engineered in the background. We know from public press releases that Russia's working on creating a system that launches tiny rockets to take down drones at close range. Whether it will work or not, your guess is as good as mine. If this adaptation sticks around, or it's eventually abandoned, is something we'll continue to need to watch out for. But I believe one thing to be true for sure. If there were reliable counter-drone weapons and shorad available, the turtle tank would already be extinct.
Yeah.
Before you go, don't forget tonight is your last chance to win this.
Yeah, so there is no answer to drones right now. I can think something like a shotgun type of anti-defense weapon, right? Scatter gun type of way, who shoots shells or whatever, but scatters them in the air. So wherever drone comes from, it's gonna get damaged anyway, because basically that's how shotgun was invented, right? Like, so you don't have to worry about aiming, right? You just like shoot in general area, you're probably gonna hit something. So you can create something like that. I don't know. All this feels like resource hungry R&D and everything, right? Which I don't know if Russia can do that right now or not. But yeah, I guess this is a future thing. But yeah, I'm sure in like next 10 years or something, we will have some tank with insane anti-drone defenses that just properly works. So people saying like tank is extinct because of drones is just like, that's not true. Yeah, this like turtle tank is just an example, like just makeshift thing people can just come up with on the field that would kind of work. But yeah, well, that was why Ukraine's taking the turtle tank seriously. By channel task and purpose. If you like my next one, don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next time.